my daughter, she comes to work for me every summer, and she comes to work. Like, she gets up in the morning, she comes to work, she takes her lunch, she go home. It teaches them responsibility, and they're learning it from you as the parent. So it's such a cool, heartfelt thing to do for your child.
Hello, hello. This is Samantha Saxby with another episode of Moms with Benefits. And today I am sitting here with Octavia Conner. She is founder and CEO of Say Yes to Profits. I love that name. Say Yes to Profits is an accounting firm, and she also considers herself a virtual CFO and tax strategist. So, Octavia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We are going to get into the heart of your tax tips for mompreneurs. But first, I want to start out with tell me about your family and tell me about what drives you to be this passionate working mom that I know you are.
So, my family, I have four babies and I just had a grandbaby. So, still getting used to that. My son is 23. He'll be 24 this year. And my youngest, actually, she is 11 as of the date of the recording of this podcast. So, today is her birthday. As a working mom, honestly, that is the reason why I go and do what I do, and I focus on building my dreams and things like that, for two reasons actually. One, I want my kids to be able to see that whatever your goals are, you can achieve them. If I did it based on where I came from and living the life that I had to live growing up, then you absolutely can do it. And then two, I want to be able to leave a legacy for generations. And so those are the reasons why I am adamant and passionate about, everything that we have going on here at Say Yes to Profits and more.
I love that. Time and time again, as I talk to moms, it is just children and the next generation is such a source of inspiration for their mom goals. They're separate, but they're also tied together. And it's so beautiful. Let's dive into tax stuff. You are talking to someone who is nowhere near a tax expert. So we got to break it down for me, for the listeners. Where do we start? Like, I will say, when I start to think about taxes, I feel like a little icky. Is that something you
Mhm.
get from a lot of people? Like,
Yeah.
what interests you about this tax world?
Listen, taxes, that is just one of the most scariest things, because here in the US, we have the IRS, and it's like, oh my goodness, I don't want to mess with the IRS, right? And so it can be very, very scary. How did I get into taxes and accounting? Well, I was a CFO for a billion-dollar pharmaceutical company. I had climbed the corporate ladder, and I really felt like the bigger organizations, they had all of these accounting experts and all of these resources that the smaller companies did not. And so I wanted to help the smaller companies, the mom and pop businesses that are honestly paying more in taxes than they should, because it is said that on average, one small business owner overpay in taxes between $11,000 and $15,000. But then these huge companies are earning billions of dollars and paying zero in taxes. And so I just decided to jump out there into the world of entrepreneurship as an accountant. That was 12 years ago, and it's been great ever since.
Wow. So you really saw an inequality, if you will, and a true need. That makes my heart warm. My family has owned a small mom and pop business for 112 years now, and it is tough. And so I grew up like working for the store and the mom and pop life, and they work hard. And I can see the struggle of having these multi-million dollar companies, get all the tax benefits when you see like the sweat equity that these mom and pop businesses are doing. So that hits home to me and my personal experience. So I love that. So are a lot of your clients then entrepreneurs, I'm gathering, and so that's kind of your sweet spot? Of those, I'm curious, how many are women? And I want to go even further, how many are moms?
Honestly, about 98 to 99% of our clients are women. Now, we have some women that own their business with their husband, but yeah, about 98 to 99% of our clients, I think we honestly have one male client where it's just him. No, I take that back. One client is not a mom.
Do you think there's something to be said about the benefits of entrepreneur life and how they relate to motherhood?
Absolutely. One of the reasons why I, in particular, decided to become an entrepreneur is because I did not like having to ask, can I take off to go to my child's award program or volunteer that day to be at my daughter's school, or my kids' school? They call it parent teacher, where you're there to read the book that day, or you're going on the field trip that day. And I have to ask permission and have someone tell me no. Absolutely not. So even with my staff, I don't do that. That was really big for me, and one of the push to say, you know what, I want to go into being a full-time entrepreneur because I need that freedom and flexibility because my kids come first.
Yeah. So again, freedom, flexibility, huge themes we hear from moms to be able to make working outside of the home feasible for their life. Awesome. Let's dive into the tax stuff. So I think you have some strategies, or some recommendations and some updates. So curious, where would you start if I'm a entrepreneur? I own my own business, or I'm looking to own my own business. What are some of the interesting tax strategies that you would go over?
So the first thing I would definitely say, if you are just starting out, or even if you've been in business for years, I want you to reevaluate your business structure. Oftentimes, we will start as an LLC. Most times, it's a single member LLC, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. At a certain point in your business growth, you may need to reconsider changing your business structure because it will yield a higher tax savings than an LLC. And so when I talk about changing your business structure, oftentimes we will get to a place where we need to be maybe an S corporation because an S corporation is not taxed on the corporate level. And so from the very beginning, you save at least 15.3% in self employment taxes as of the date of the recording of this episode when you become an S Corp. But if you are just a single member LLC, you're going to pay self employment taxes as well as income taxes.
Okay, interesting. So the takeaway there is totally cool to start as an LLC, but it's not like a set it and forget it thing, and it's something to
Exactly.
come back to. Okay, I think that makes sense. For those, can you break down again S corp, and is there C corp too?
Yes, there is an S corp, there is a C corp, there is an LLC, and there's a sole proprietor, right? So LLC is a limited liability company. And so from the federal level, an LLC is considered a disregarded entity. And so from the federal side, they basically treat it as a sole proprietor. When you file your taxes, you will file your LLC and your personal taxes together, okay? As just a single member LLC. An S corporation, you're actually going to file an S corporation separate from your personal taxes because the S corp is an entity by itself and is not together with your LLC. So it's a separate entity, and you want to make sure you keep it separate from your personal taxes. That's how you're supposed to file it.
Is there certain like industries or market segments or certain like triggers of growth that are tied to these certain, what would you call them, tax structures?
Yes, that is a really great question. Okay, so for an S corporation, when you're thinking about transitioning from an LLC to an LLC taxed as an S corporation, one of the metrics would be if your net profit, the number at the bottom of your income statement, is about 40, 50,000 plus, then that is a clear indication that you may need to consider transitioning to an S corp, right? Now, here's the thing. As an S corporation, you need to pay yourself a reasonable market-based salary. That is one of the requirements. So as the owner of the company, you should be receiving a salary as a W 2 employee of that company, and it should be a reasonable market based salary according to the IRS. Well, here's the thing, if your net profit is about 40,000 or $50,000, or let's just say 40,000 plus, right? You can take that as your salary. Your salary then becomes a tax deduction for your business. As just a single member LLC, your salary is not tax deductible. So that is a clear indication if your net profit is about 40,000 plus that you may benefit from being an S corporation.
That's interesting. And so talk me through net profit of 40K. I now make that my salary. Does that mean like that's my salary and I'm making 40K a year?
So yes, so you as the owner would pay yourself 40,000 a year, or whatever that reasonable number is, right? But let's just say it's 40,000 because that's a good metric to think about transitioning to an S corp. Yes, you would pay yourself a $40,000 salary as the owner of the company.
Okay, that makes sense, and it's tax deductible.
It's tax deductible. Yes.
Okay, but theoretically, I could pay myself more. I'm thinking, like, do you have recommendations of what a reasonable salary is? Like, mine goes to Bureau of Labor Statistics. Is that what you would say, or other recommendations?
Right. So you want to factor in a couple of different things, right? When you're thinking about your reasonable salary, because again, you have to keep in mind this is the reasonable salary from the IRS eyes. And so your reasonable salary, it can't be $10,000 for the year. That's really not going to be reasonable based on the work that you do. So you want to factor in your technical title, right? And so using myself as an example, my technical title could be chief financial officer because other companies hire a chief financial officer, a CFO, or an accountant, right? A senior level accountant. That is something that another company would hire. So you want to think about the technical title. You want to factor in your years of experience, your educational background. And the biggest thing that I tell entrepreneurs, think about the amount you would pay someone to do the job that you're currently doing. And you wanted to pay them well. You wanted to pay them to have a comfortable life. It doesn't have to be a luxurious life, but a comfortable life. What would that salary be? That can give you a ballpark range on what your salary should be as the owner of the company. Now, for our clients, we do a complete salary analysis with this IRS approved software. But if you are not privy to that, then you can just use that technical title, your years of experience, and what would you pay someone to do the job that you're currently doing that would be reasonable for that person? What would that amount be?
My mind goes to whether you're an entrepreneur or not, like, that is a good exercise for any individual, any mom, anybody to know their worth. It sounds very
Mm-hmm.
simple, but, like, know their worth. Do you have thoughts on, like, there's this phrase of charge what you're gonna charge and then add 20% to make sure it's,
Yes.
like, adding your worth? Like, is there any kind of mindset that you have around this topic?
I agree with that 100%, right? Because when you think about it, historically, we as women often receive less than what our male counterparts receive. And so we want to think about what our salary should be. And again, be reasonable. Okay. Even if you're working for someone right now, what is a reasonable amount for everything that you do for your title, your position in that company? If you're working for yourself, what is a reasonable amount for you to live comfortably, right? And make that your metric. Now, when you think about that reasonable amount, I want you absolutely to add 20 to 30% on top of that. And if you're not there yet, that's okay too. If you are an entrepreneur, work to get to that point. If you're working for someone else, same thing. Work to get to that point because that is a reasonable amount.
Okay. So, takeaway number one, reevaluate your business structure from an LLC to an S Corp. Potentially, benefit of that is your income as the owner could be a tax deduction.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. And then related to that, of course, is the due diligence of your reasonable salary. What's that worth according to the market? And incorporating the technical title, your years of experience, background, and related metrics to be able to come up with that number so that you can still, of course, live comfortably. Okay. All right. What's the next tax tip you got for us mamas?
So, the next tax tip, if you are an entrepreneur, I want you to think about every way you can spend money in your business, because oftentimes we're not using the tax rules and regulations to our advantage. Perfect example, I just completed a tax return for a business owner. She's a new client of ours. And so I was looking back at her previous year financials, and I noticed that she didn't have any type of expenses going towards telephone. And so I asked her, I said, do you have a phone in your business? Like, how are you communicating outside of email? And she's like, yes, I do have a telephone we pay a monthly bill for. Great. That is a tax deduction. Oftentimes most entrepreneurs do not take the maximum tax deductions that they can take based on their business. And so the next tip would be to identify all of the ways that you can take tax deductions. And you want to think about this from your expenses. And so they should be ordinary and necessary for your business. So what are the ways that you can spend money in your business that can be an expense that is ordinary and necessary? If you can figure those out, those are probably tax deductions that you can take.
That's a great example, the phone bill. I think that's an awesome example. I'm curious, in the day and age post-COVID world of remote work, would anything like office stuff,
Yes.
is that a stretch? No, that can be
No, no,
included?
no, no. That's not a stretch, because what about the virtual co-working spaces? A lot of entrepreneurs that are working from home, they're using those. Well, guess what? That is a tax deduction for your business, right? Because that's necessary, for your particular company to have this co-working membership, and then you can write it off as a tax deduction. So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, and so then the slippery slope is just not to get too crazy, to just spend more and more because it's a tax deduction because you still
Right.
have to pay for it, so
Exactly, exactly. So I would highly recommend you create a budget in the very beginning, or, if you don't have one right now and it's the middle of the month, create a budget right now. Create a budget and identify the ways that you need to earn money and spend money. Ask yourself, are those the items that you truly need to scale your business? And then once you figure that out, then ask yourself, are these actual tax deductions for my company? And if I'm earning enough money to cover them, because you don't want to spend, 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 and then you're at a net loss, right? And now you have cash flow problems. So that is not what I'm saying at all. But I want you to also be clear on what's coming in, what's going out, and what are the benefit of the ways money is leaving your company. Or are you just spending money frivolously and is not helping your business scale?
yeah, so definitely comes down to that budget. All right, I'm learning so much stuff about the tax world.
Yes.
What else you got for us?
I would definitely say to think about hiring your kids. This is a huge one. And I love, love, love sharing this tax deduction. So I share it all the time, right? So over the last couple of years, this tax deduction has increased. Okay. So it was in 2022, $12,950. In 2023, $13,850. In 2024, it's now $14,600. What are these numbers? Basically, if you hire your child to work for you, you can pay them this year up to $14,600. You can write it off as a tax deduction for your business. If your child is under the age of 18, they will not have to pay FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare. But it gets even better than that. If you hire your child to work for you, and let's say like my child, she's 11, right? She does cleaning around the office, things like that. I don't want to give her $14,600 over the course of the year. I can take her salary and I can invest it into a custodial IRA or 529 college account. And so not only is it now a tax deduction, but I'm also building this wealth for my child using the money that I would pay her as a salary. Such a game changer. A lot of mompreneurs are not using this strategy.
Okay. This feels like
Boom.
right? My mind is woo. Okay, so follow-up questions. This assumes call it 14K to just like round it out. This assumes that you would have revenue coming in to pay out another worker, right? So that's like basic assumption. Okay. Is there age limitations?
There is not an age limitation. However, if your child is over the age of 18, you can hire them, but they still will have to pay FICA, right? So they still would be responsible for Social Security and Medicare. If they're under the age of 18, they don't have to pay FICA, and neither do you when you hire them and they're under the age of 18. But my son works for me. He's 23. When I go and do videos and speaking engagements, he's there recording those things. Well, I can still pay him and I can still write it off. But again, he's 23 years old. And so it becomes just regular instead of me hiring my child and paying them up to $14,600 and being able to do different things with that money. It becomes he works for his mom in this capacity because he's over a certain age.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. So then under 18, you get this the additional tax benefit of not having to pay FICA and Social Security. Then you also have the opportunity to leverage a custodial IRA or a 529. Talk to me. Are you comfortable talking about those two savings vehicles?
Yes, yes, yes. So I can, well, I'm not a financial planner, so let me say this. But what I can tell you is that an IRA, you can invest in different things for your child, right? The 529 college account is basically you saving money to send your child to college at a later time. So though that's kind of the limit for me with explaining that, but you can also take what you're investing in these different vehicles and use that as a tax benefit as well. So it's such a huge benefit across the board or all the way around when you're using this and you're hiring your child. Plus in addition to that, you're able to teach your child about growing a business and the different avenues of scaling a company, from negotiations to, I don't know, contract writing, to just honestly being a responsible adult because they have to work for you. Like my daughter, she comes to work for me every summer, and she comes to work. Like she gets up in the morning, she comes to work, she takes her lunch, she go home. It teaches them responsibility, and they're learning it from you as the parent. So it's such a cool, heartfelt thing to do for your child.
Yeah, I'm having like a full circle moment here because that was my summers working for the my grandparents' business, like I said, and it's like we wake up and we go to work and we can only play when work is done. And so I 100% am a hard worker because of that experience growing up. And I loved it. Like I loved learning about the store and stocking and like food days, and Tuesday was when all the food came in and we had to restock the shelves. And like as an adult and now as a mother, I have realized what an impactful experience that was. So do you have other examples of jobs that children could do? Like I'm thinking almost like younger kids, like babies. Is that is that even realistic?
Here's the thing. Yes, yes, yes. Because now I don't quite know if this is 100% true, but this is what I heard in the accounting industry, in the different at industry events I've attended. Jay-Z on one of his albums, Blue Ivy, is saying something on an album. And he wrote that off on his taxes. And she was a baby. She was a very young baby. So it has to be, here's what I know about the tax code, right? It has to be in alignment with your business. And it has to be something you could hire someone else to do. Okay. So
Mm.
using myself for an example, I'm an accountant, I hire bookkeepers. My daughter was a bookkeeper. I have an office. I had to hire someone to clean the office. Why do that when I have kids? I can pay them to clean the office. And so when you think about it, think about what would I hire someone else to do, and can my child, whether she is 2, 10, 12, or 20, do this job? And if so, can they do the job in a way that someone else has done it, and you would talk to them in a way, or teach them and train them in a way that you would teach someone else that's coming in? Are all of those things similar? And if so, hire your child today, because it's a double benefit for your child as well as your company.
Yeah. Okay. And so I'm sold. I want to ask you follow up questions from your experience, either personally or working with your clients for this specific tax strategy. Like, talk to me about the mother piece of it, and is there resistance? Is there full embracing of this concept from mompreneurs?
Honestly, I have not met anyone with resistance for this. So I would have to say full embracing of this strategy, because as moms, we want to educate our child, right? And we want to show them things and teach them, right, and train them. And who best for them to learn from than, in most cases, the mom? And so not only will you be doing that, but you also can start to build their wealth and their legacy, and then you also can take this as a tax deduction. So I honestly haven't met anyone that has had any type of resistance. What I have had to address is the exact question that you just asked. Well, how do I do it, right? How do I bring them in, and is there an age limit on this? Now, we've had to identify, okay, your child is this age, this is a reasonable job for them, this is something you would hire someone else to do. Now, we've had to do that, but once we've identified those things and outlined exactly how they're gonna work for you, they're off to the races. This is such a win-win-win for everyone.
No, that it's wonderful to hear that there's not much resistance, and that it sounds like there's an alignment of the deeper values being communicated and taught to children for this scenario. And so that's beautiful. Okay, well, thank you so much, Octavia, for all of your insight here. I feel like I know I personally learned a lot, and I think what you're doing and talking to moms and mompreneurs specifically about these benefits it's just needed. And so I just thank you for the work that you're doing, and I hope that we can help you, get your message out, because it's real problems that you're solving for people. So thank you again for joining us. If people are looking to reach out to you, Octavia Conner, at Say Yes to Profits, where can they find you?
Yes. So I am on all social media platforms. On YouTube, I'm there every single week with a new episode. So, of course, on YouTube, you can go to Octavia Conner, and that's Connor with an ER, Octavia Conner, and I should pop up, or Say Yes to Profits, and I definitely will pop up. On Instagram, Octavia Conner CFO. And then for all of your listeners, I have a special financial toolkit that you all could download. And so if you go to sayyes-to-profits.com/mom with benefits, you'll have a special free financial toolkit just for listening to this episode as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for putting that together. So, listeners, go ahead and get that tool kit. Thank you again so much for joining us, Octavia.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
If you are currently expecting or just looking to plan ahead, check out perkyleave.com to learn more about your leave benefits. Moms with Benefits is chasing financial and emotional stability for motherhood. If you've resonated with any of the stories from our moms, we'd love for you to give us a rating and quick review to help spread the word. You'll also find Moms with Benefits on Instagram at momswithbenefits.org. Keep going and keep growing, Mama.